Good afternoon to everybody. So today we'll start block 3 MEG-6 block 3. That is again uh, the fiction part, American fiction, and we have another important novel of American literature, Huckleberry Finn, or the Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. Is a very important novel. We'll start the novel, but before that, is there anyone who has opted for MEG 16? Those who are present in the meeting now, is there anyone who opted for MEG 16? Anyone? Am I audible to all of you or not?
Hello, sir.
Yes,
Sir, am I audible?
yes.
Sir, I have opted for MEG-16.
Okay, so the
Others,
students
many
are
others.
okay. So actually, we say repeatedly from the beginning that it is strictly instructed by the RC Bhubaneswar that one class can be given uh, if the number of students are very less in a particular paper. We will see for once, and in the very first class we found only two participants available from MEG 16, and that is why it was not possible for the second class. But as Malik Shah, who was assigned with MEG 16, he insisted that he has already gone through MEG 16, and we thought of trying once again. If the students will come, then we will continue. But in the second class again, only three students were present. So two, three students are very measurable number. We cannot take it. Means RC will not pay. That is very important. If the attendance is the number of students in a class is less than 8, then they are not going to pay for more than one classes. So that is the problem. That is why we intimated to RC Bhubaneswar, and they said that to stop the class immediately, and we have stopped the class. Today only Malik sir told me that some students have made a group of MEG 16 paper, and they are demanding that the classes should resume. This is not possible. We have already started. We started and we discontinued also. So this is now only possible if you write to RC Bhubaneswar. Okay. If others write, if you are interested and other students of MEG 16 they are interested, and the number, if you think that will be more than 8 in the class, so you can approach RC Bhubaneswar through writing that this MEG 16 class should be resumed. And if
Yes,
they
sir.
permit,
Sir, we are trying from our side, and we have gathered some students, and we have messaged to RC Bhubaneswar. Let's see what happens.
then if they instruct us that we are ready to give the class, we are providing classes in all the papers. So MEG 16 we have also given two classes, but in both of the classes the number did not increase. So we are bound to stop the class. That is why if you have to say anything now, you can say to the RC Bhubaneswar, and that is your job. If you convince RC, the director of RC Bhubaneswar, then they will instruct us to resume the class. We will um, give classes on the schedule. The classes are already scheduled, and it has been stopped because of the reason. Okay, so you intimate all the students about that. The number, if even if the classes will be is resumed, the number should be more than 8, at least 10, at least 10. And again, if the number becomes 2, 3, 4, 5, we cannot do anything. Okay, so that is something for MEG 16 students. Now we will be back to MEG 6, American Literature, Block 3, and the paper is, the chapter is Fiction, American Fiction 2. This is the second fiction. First fiction we studied in the last class, The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. It was very interesting. Um, it was a very milestone kind of literature, an epoch making literature, literary art, literary work in American literature, and as a whole, also you can say in English literature. It's a very beautiful novel. I suggest everybody, if you get chance, you go through the text. This 1 hour class is quite insufficient to understand the writer, the story, and this kind of classic works. Okay, today Huckleberry Finn that we are going to start. This is also another classic from American literature, from English literature. But again, if you do not go through the text, you do not enjoy the charm. You cannot prove. If somebody asks you how do you think it is a classic, you cannot prove it. So you have to go through the text. You have to understand both the background, the context, literary, political, literary context, political, social context. Okay, at the time, and how the characters they represent that particular time. Okay, and what language the writer has used, and how altogether all these elements make that particular work a classic literature, a classic work in the field of literature. This is very important. Once again, I say those who are joining, please put your enrollment number and name in the chat box so that your attendance will be counted. It is required for both you and us also. So, Huckleberry Finn, or you can say The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, is a very beautiful classic novel, epoch making novel, okay, in American literature by Mark Twain. Mark Twain, a very famous novelist in American literature, published. It was published in 1884 for the first time. Okay, it was published in England for the first time. Okay, at that time, America was not so much advanced that everything they were depending on England. So that is why it was published first in England for receiving a better audience, better number of audience. And again in 1885, it was published in America after 1 year. Once the novel got popularity in England among the readers, it was published again in America. Okay. Uh, it was written in vernacular English, very um, English of the people, ordinary people, not very sophisticated. You may have, if you have read, if you have any idea about the sophisticated languages that some of the writers in English literature, British literature, they usually use while writing. Uh, One of them is very, in my study period, whatever text I have read, I found James Joyce, the portrait of the artist as a young man, to be very sophisticated in language. If you ever, if you get any chance to go through the text of this particular, the portrait of the artist as a young man by James Joyce, so go through it. You can understand how language, how English language can be sophisticated. Okay. Anyhow, this book is not written in the sophisticated kind of language. It is the language of the people. It is the language usually spoken in America at that time. So that is why it is uh, very popular among the Americans. Okay. It is a sequel. You must have heard the word sequel. Sequel means following something. When we Now it has become a trend in Bollywood and other films also. Bollywood, Hollywood, even in Hollywood, we find Bahubali 1 and 2. Okay, sequel means uh, when a book is written, the author stopped at a point of time in the ending. You will find another novel starting from that ending. Okay, that is called a sequel, having connection with the previous text, previous story. The characters are they are present in the previous story. Okay, we find a lot of films, a lot of movies which have sequels nowadays. So this novel is also a sequel to another novel written by Mark Twain, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. Okay, Tom Sawyer is a novel written before the this novel Huckleberry Finn, and Huckleberry Finn was also a character there in that novel, and the central character in the previous means in the Adventures of Tom Sawyer was Tom Sawyer. Tom Sawyer was the central character, protagonist. But here in Huckleberry Finn, we find Huckleberry Finn to be the protagonist. Tom is a normal character, has his presence very less times, you can say, not frequently, as he was not the protagonist. So it is a sequel. Okay, and also the story begins from there where it was ending in the it ended in the novel Adventures of Tom Sawyer. It ended there, and the story, same story, starts again in Huckleberry Finn. But here only the changes we find that Huckleberry Finn, who was a very is a very not very important in the previous novel, now becomes the protagonist. Again, another important point of this novel, before we start, we should also try to understand this novel is a picaresque novel. Picaresque novel. We uh, have learned, you must have idea about the types of novels. There are many types of novels we find after the rise of novel, when novel became a genre in 18th century. Afterwards, we find a lot of novels came to being: realistic novel, gothic novel, this kind of novel, picaresque novel, romance, romantic novel that we say, many types of novel. Okay, so all these novels are different in their plot, different in their choosing main characters or the protagonist, plot creations, plot movement. Okay, here in picaresque novel, the special what is a picaresque novel? If you try to understand, this is a kind of genre I said in prose fiction, and it depicts the adventures of a rogue. Okay, it depicts the adventure, or you can say movement, going here and there, roaming all around the globe, all around the country. Okay, going here and there, simply roaming here and there, a rogue kind of character, a rascal kind of character. And the hero in a picaresque novel belongs to a very low class, low social class. Okay, and lives by his wit, mostly in a society which is full of corruptions, full of unethical activities. Okay, and the hero, or you can say the rogue, okay, is involved all these kind of things in this society where you find corruption everywhere, and he lives there by his own wit. It's very realistic. If you think about novels written quite earlier or dramas also, you find the heroes being kings and ministers, okay, commanders. They become the hero. The kingly, the royal family becomes the plot. Even if you look at Indian literature also, the ancient literature that we consider Mahabharata and Ramayana, you don't find any common people to be a hero. In our Bollywood also, if you go back to the very beginning of the movie cinema industry, you will also find the same thing. A hero is supposed to do something extraordinary. If you watch um, Telugu movies, South Indian movies, you will find the hero is capable of doing that God cannot do. Okay, 3 4 bullets cannot do anything to their body. A single bullet can kill the villain, but the hero cannot die. So this is very unrealistic. You cannot say, you simply always say that I am not a hero. That means the concept of hero is something different. Okay, in our society or in film industry, cinema industry, hero is supposed to be exceptional, supposed to be very different, supposed to know how to fight in all situations. Okay, supposed to reach all the incidents um, uh, in time. Okay, when everything is done and the villain is going to kill somebody, the hero will arrive. So this is not realistic. So in a picaresque novel, you will find a hero from the lower ground, somebody who is sewing clothes, a cobbler can be a hero. A cobbler has his own life, and whatever happens in a novel, if centered around the cobbler became hero. So you, if you think that cobbler did not fight in the entire novel, he did not do something very interesting, very remarkable in the novel. So that is why we cannot take it a hero. No, that is wrong. In a realistic novel, anybody can be a hero. In a realistic novel, you find the hero being going down to any level. He can go down to any level, and he can go up to any level also. A human being, that is possible. Okay, so that is a realistic novel, and a picaresque novels are always realistic. Okay, the heroes are very low class. If educated, they go on wandering and wandering. They wander in the all the areas, leaving their families, leaving their relationship. Okay, this is in these kind of novels you find mostly comedy and satire, no tragedy. They don't have any kind of relations, connections. If you find connections, bonding, if you find relations, you will suffer if your members, family members are suffering. But these kind of heroes, they don't have a good family. Okay, done Quickstow by Cervantes. Okay, and Charles Dickens, Pickwick Papers. Okay. This is a picaresque novel also. Tom Jones is a picaresque novel. You must have heard Tom Jones. It is prescribed, I think, in novel part. Tom Jones is prescribed to you. So if you have gone through that, Tom Jones is a picaresque novel. Tom moves and moves, goes here and there, sleeping with many ladies, many women in his lifetime. Okay, forgetting about his own lover, own beloved, goes on roaming here and there. So that is a picaresque novel, Tom Jones. If you have heard, you can better understand. If you have read any picaresque novel, you can understand. This is once again Huckleberry Finn is a picaresque novel. Okay, it is also a Bildungsroman. Bildungsroman is a concept which came in later in 21st century, in 20th century and 21st century. But we can relate this concept to quite earlier writings like this. This was written in 1885 in the 19th century, uh, later part of 19th century. Uh, Still, Bildungsroman was not a term at that time. Bildungsroman means It came from the German word Bildung, Bildung, Bildung. Okay, and a Roman is also a word which means novel. Bildungs, Bildungs, Bildungs Roman, Roman, Bildungs Roman. It means a novel, a genre which focuses on psychological and moral growth of the protagonist. Psychological growth, moral growth. When the plot moves forward, when the story goes forward, you will find the character becoming psychologically, morally grown up. This is also in novel we find two kind of characters. One is a flat character, one is a round character. Another one is the a round character. Round character means those who those who undergo changes through the situations. At the beginning of the novel, you find a character becoming being very cruel, very short tempered, taking alcohol, being unethical, involved in antisocial kind of work. But the end of the story, if you find the hero becoming a very good, intelligent, very gentleman, good gentleman, intelligent, and civilized, has given up all kind of bad habits. So you find a changed character at the end. If the character is changing, means from the beginning to the end, if you find changes in a character, that character is called a round character. But if you find the same, the character does not undergo any changes throughout the story, that he was the same as he was in the beginning, that means the character is called a flat character. So in Bildungsroman, you find the character to be a round character undergoing growth, moral growth. He receives knowledge, he acquires knowledge. That is why education is there. Means Bildungs means education. He takes up education. He acquires education through the activities, through different kind of experience in the novel. Bildungsroman means a novel of education, where the protagonist receives moral knowledge, psychological education. Psychology becomes strong, he becomes morally grown up. This is Bildungsroman. So this novel also we can treat it as a Bildungsroman. You can understand when you understand the protagonist Huck or Huckle very well. The book describes colorful description of people and places along the Mississippi River. Okay, along the Mississippi River in America, in the southern part of America, in the South America, you can say, there was a river called Mississippi. Okay, so along the Mississippi River, so there was the place where the setting of the novel is done, and um, it is a satire. This novel is a satire, entrenched attitudes and racism. A satire on racism. Satire, you must have heard about satire. Satire is a kind of narrative. Um, you can find poems, stories, and novels. Everything satirical. We say satire. When we use humor, irony, exaggeration also, when we try to ridicule in order to expose, criticize people in a particular text. Okay, sometimes contemporary politics, social issues. So that kind of text is called a satire. The best kind of satire when came to being is, you can say, uh, the Gulliver's Travel. Have anyone gone through this novel, Gulliver's Travel? It's a very common novel prescribed in school level.
Yes, sir.
If you have gone through the novel, you must have enjoyed that it is suitable for both the children and the adult. You find that in Lilliput, the human beings are 6 inch by their height, 6 inch peoples, and in Brobdingnag you find 60 feet people. And the best satirical part of that novel is the last travel of Gulliver. That is, travel to the Huinams, the last part. There are four travels of Gulliver: travels to Lilliput, travels to Brobdingnag, travels to Laputa, and the last one is Huinams. Travel to the Huinams. And the Huinams are the greatest part of any satire. If you have gone through the novel, if you have ever read the novel, it's a beautiful novel. And the last part touches the most to everybody. It touched me the most, according to my point of view. That is the best satire I have ever read in my life. That the horses are they are civilized there. In Huinam's part, in the last travel, if you have gone through, you can understand. Otherwise, it will all goes on bouncing. Okay, Huinams are horses, and they are the civilized one. They are in that particular island, and the human beings are called Yahoos. They are Yahoos. Okay, they are full of hills, long hairs, quite naked, without dresses. They are jumping from tree to tree just like monkeys, and they do not have education. They do not have civilization. They do not have any kind of idea about the human beings living in other parts of the world. They are very kind of more than uglier than the animals also, you can say. They are the ugliest kind of creature living in the world. But the horses there, who are called Huinams, are most intelligent. They have their families, they have their institutions, they study, they have their education system, culture, language, everything they have. But these Yahoos are having nothing, simply naked, throwing filth to each other, jumping from trees to tree, living like just like other animals, monkeys. Monkeys are cleaner. Monkeys you find today, you find monkeys to be very clean. You can toss them without any hesitation. So that is the satire. Satire means here you find the human existence has been ironically presented, means humorously presented. The human being who thinks to be very intelligent, cuts the trees, does anything, uses the fuel to the extent they can afford. Today, we the human being were very much proud that we are human beings, and we do all kind of tortures, whatever possible, to all other parts of the nature. Okay, we kill everybody in a kind of a game. We like, we kill. In Indian history, you find the kings going on hunting. They kill because of fun. Why? Because we are capable of doing that. We have knowledge. We have introduced. We have means invented bow and arrow. Because of that only, we can shoot them. Once we have gone, we become again more very much proud. We feel very much proud that we have introduced gun, that we can shoot anybody from any distance, and we can also in one shot we can kill them. So we are very much happy now. We are happy that we have introduced nuclear bombs and we can easily shoot anybody we want. So now you think that when human beings think in this way, that we are capable of doing anything, and we have everything, we are the best kind of creations of God. So at that time, uh, means the author presents human being as yahoos. In Brobdingnag, the author shows you that if you think you are 6 feet and you feel proud, that there are people who are 60 feet height, quite higher than you, 6 and 60, 10 times longer, ten times taller than you. That is the satire. When you criticize somebody, when you ironically present something, when you ridicule somebody or some issues of the society, that becomes a satire, and this is a satire. You will find the satire aiming at racism. Mostly, the racism here refers to the black man, niggers, negroes. Negroes are slaves at that time. Even if the slavery system has been abolished from America, but it took time. With the with the law of abolition, it was not abolished from America. After 2 decades of the declaration of abolition of slavery system, still we find this issue in southern part of America, where Negroes are being means the slaves. Negroes are slaves who are being sold to the people, who can be purchased, can be utilized like any other goods available in the market, and you can throw away, you can resell. They have no identity at all. You will also find here the crisis of identity. Okay, we'll go later to that point during analysis. But this is the introduction part of the novel. A lot of things can be discussed in this novel, but the time is quite insufficient. We cannot cover everything. The story begins in the fictional St. Petersburg, Missouri, on the shore of the river. I said the Mississippi River. In the shore of that Mississippi River, the story began in St. Petersburg. Huckleberry Finn is the protagonist, and his friend is Tom Sawyer, who was the protagonist in the Adventures of Tom Sawyer, the previous novel. Okay, and uh, in the earlier novel, we find that at the end of the novel, earlier novel means the Adventures of Tom Sawyer. In that novel, the novel ends with an adventure in which Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer both they helped in catching um a thief who were stealing a lot of money. Okay, and by the result they were awarded $6,000 each. Means Tom Sawyer got $6,000, and Tom Huckleberry Finn also got $6,000 because of their good deed at the end of the novel in Tom Sawyer, Adventures of Tom Sawyer. But here, the story begins from that $6,000. When the novel opens, we find um, Tom Sawyer was a friend, Huckleberry Finn. Huckleberry Finn was living with Douglas. Okay, was living with Douglas, a woman, and the sister of Douglas, Miss Watson. Hawk, Huckleberry Finn is known as Hawk. We will call him Hawk. Hawk was living with Douglas and Mr. Watson, and they want to make him civilized. They want to teach him what culture is. And the story begins when Tom was only 13 years old. Okay, only 13 years old. So they were trying to teach, they were trying to make him civilized, make him know everything. Douglas can be tolerable, but Watson was very intolerable. Means Hawk always want Hawk always wants to leave the family, go away somewhere because he is unable to bear the torture of Watson particularly. Douglas is okay kind of thing. He has not a lot of complaints against Douglas, but Watson was unbearable in part of Hawk. Okay. Tom Sawyer, on the other hand, has a gang. He has a gang. They go on different kind of adventures, and they enjoy that. Hence, the particular point is here: adventure does not mean doing something very great or doing something very illegal, antisocial. kind of thing. No, not that. They like, they go and they like to go on adventures. Okay, that is why that is a kind of fun making activity. Hawk is very much interested to go with Tom Sawyer, but Tom Sawyer said that if you become civilized, I'll take you with me. And this is ironical also. This is not true altogether, but he said that if you wish to go with me on every kind of adventures we undertake, you need to you need to be civilized. You stay with Douglas and Watson, become civilized, then you will join us. Okay, and the father of Tom, no, sorry, the father of Hawk is Pap. The name of the father is Pap Finn. Pap, P-A-P, Pap Finn. Finn is their surname, you can say. So Pap is a very terrible drunkard. He drinks a lot of alcohol every day, and he wants to take away that $6,000 Hawk had received in a kind of award, through a award that he has done something good in helping the helping to catch the thief. So for that he has received, and his father has always his eyes on that money. He goes to their Douglas house, and there he insisted Hawk to give him the money. And Hawk knows very well that his father will drink alcohol using this huge amount. He did not want to waste the money, and he denied. When he denied, his father brought him from Douglas house and kept him in a cabin, locked cabin. Okay, he kept Hawk in a locked cabin. But Hawk was very witty, you can say. Okay, what he does, he plans to murder himself, a fake murder, not to murder him actually, a fake murder. He plans to murder himself in a fake manner, so that everybody will believe that he has been killed, but he will escape. So he brought a pig, kills the pig, and strewn the blood of that pig in that cabin, and leaves the place, escapes the cabin. And his father believed, everybody thought that Hawk has been killed. Everybody knew that Hawk is dead. But Hawk lives to a very solitude island. He took out a canoe, a small kind of boat, and using that canoe, he went to an island quite far away from the. Uh, by the river, he went and he reached a kind of island. Nobody was there, and he stayed there. And there he found Jim. Jim is another character, a slave. Okay, he was also means Hawk has idea about Jim before. He knew Jim well. He found Jim there, and he found Jim escaping his master's house because of the torture. So this is racism that I said. Racism has been narrated through Jim. Jim is at the center along with Hawk. Hawk always wants to save Jim. Jim should not be a slave. Jim should get his right back. He should be a normal citizen like any other who were living in America. That is why Jim wants that, means Hawk wants that Jim should be a very common kind of person. He should not be sold. He should not be bought. He should have his own life. Okay, he should be given education. So for that, he tries his level best throughout the novel that he should not be, means Jim should not be identified, should not be searched out by his master, and Jim should be set free. Okay, that was the desire, and Hawk tries his level best. Okay, that is how you will find Hawk developing a kind of inner psychological improvement. You will find the moral boost to understand the life of a slave. Okay, he was very kind of very raw kind of character. He lives in his own dream. He does not want everybody to impose rules and regulations on him. He wants to be free, but his freedom is quite different in comparison to the freedom of Jim. Okay, uh, the characters attempt to emancipate themselves. Emancipation means freedom. To emancipate means to become free. They want, both of the characters, both Finn, both Jim and Hawk, they wanted to emancipate themselves. Though emancipation means different to both of them. Hawk desires to break free from the constraints of society, both physical and psychological. But Jim is fleeing a life of literal enslavement. For Jim, it was a life of enslavement that he wants to flee from, run away from, go away from. Much of the conflict in the novel stems from Hawk's attempt to reconcile Jim's desire to be free. Okay, so this is the conflict that Hawk always tries to reconcile Jim's desire of emancipation with his own. Initially, Hawk is only concerned with his own freedom, but does not question the morality of slavery, has little idea about the slavery system, the life of a slave, the inner psychological status of a slave who has no identity, no individuality, no freedom, no choice. You cannot choose your dress, you cannot choose your food, you cannot choose your life partner. You have no freedom at all. Slave means you can identify, you can guess what should be their condition. If you have seen movies related to slavery system, Hollywood movies, you can better understand how the slaves were treated. But after spending time with Jim, frequently they got united. Initially, I said when out of the cabin, when he escaped from his father's clutch, he went into an island, and there he meets first time for the means a freed Jim. Earlier, he has found Jim in Watson's house and as a slave, but there in the island, he found a freed Jim, an independent Jim, and he tries to keep Jim with him all the time until he was announced free. He was given his freedom. Okay, Hawk Hawk's conscience always tells him that he needs to help Jim because Jim is also a human being. Okay, so Jim is a human being. This is his conscience always forces him to understand, forces him to realize. While Hawk faces few legal barriers in his own quest of personal freedom, the stakes are much higher for Jeep. For Hawk, it was very simple barriers, legal barriers, we say. His father not wanting him to go out or do something like whatever he wants. And Douglas and Watson are very simple things. If Hawk does not want, his father does not force him to stay with them, Hawk is free. Hawk is not a Negro. Hawk is not like Jim. Hawk is not a slave. Okay, so that is why for his quest of freedom, it's not very critical. But if you talk about the freedom of Jim, it is very higher since it is against the laws of slaves to run away. If a slave runs away, laws are there that they will be punished with the law. So you can understand now, if you do something against law, if you kill somebody, that is against law, and you will be punished for that. You can have some years of imprisonment, or you may be hanged, or anything may be happened according to the situation. So that is why, if a slave runs away from the master, he will be punished according to the law. Over time, Hawk develops an inner conviction that he cannot return Jim to slavery. It was his conviction, inner conviction. He decided by himself, though he was very young. You can imagine a boy of 13 determining to all these things, go against the traditional system of slavery, and fighting against slavery is not very simple thing. But Hawk tries the level best, and at last you will find Jim becoming a free man. Despite feeling guilty for acting in a way that his society will never accept, will consider it as immoral, Hawk decides he must treat Jim not as a slave, but as a human being, a good human being. So that is against the society. And you can think that a boy of 13 is quite immature to understand the moralities of the rules and regulations, the principles of a society. Whatever he believes, he does that. He has a lot of adventures in the story. Okay, we will find a lot of adventures in the story. He has a raft. They got both Jim and Hawk. They got a drifting raft while they were living in that island. They moved through that raft to anywhere. They found a house, floating house, a dead body inside that. And Jim said, "You are a boy. You should not look at the dead body." Later, we find that the dead body was the body of Hawk's dead father. We'll later know that at the end of the story. So you find that floating house they found. They tried to loot those houses, floating houses, or any kind of ship available. Okay, they went on doing that. They found a duke. Okay, a duke, a king and a duke in their adventure also they found. And later they came to be known as very wicked kind of people, which help Jim, means which help in recovering his Jim. Jim was again given back to his masters, because of these two, the king and the duke. Okay, so this is how a lot of adventurous we'll find in the story. Towards the end, we'll find that Hawk becomes takes the guise of a woman, a lady. Okay, he goes to the house um, of a lady where Tom was expected to come, and he joins there saying that he is Tom. The old lady identifies him. Okay, Hawk was identified. Tom also reached there. They talked each other, and later he came to know that Jim has been freed by his master a month ago. His father was also dead, so Jim has no objection to. Now Jim can live freely in the society, and as his father is dead, Hawk can also live freely in the society. Okay, his father was forcing him to live with the Douglas that Hawk did not wish, and Jim was trying to become free, but he was not. He was bonded with the slavery system. He was purchased by somebody. So that is why he was fleeing from the society. He was away from the society. Later, we find that both of the characters, like Jim and Hawk, they have their problem solved. So they came back to the society and started to live like the common man. So this is the story. The adventures, you find a lot of adventures. I said going here and there using the raft. In the middle, the raft will be broken and Jim will go somewhere else, and this hawk will go somewhere else. Again, they will meet. Again, they will separate. They will be separated. Like this will happen, go on till the end. But all the time, Hawk wants to keep Jim as a common human being and not to push back him again to the torture of a slave, to become a slave in Watson's house. So that is the point of the story, that how Hawk tries his level best to make Jim live a life um, of a common man, to become independent in the society and live like others. That was the story about. That is why it is called Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. So these are the adventure, and the great adventure in this story that is not said directly is his attempt and his success in making Jim a free man. Okay, taking out the tag of a slave from Jim. Jim was a slave, and because of the attempt of this means when Jim was lost, Jim was not found in the master's house. They have complained to the police. Okay, they tried to search Jim out. So all these things happened. Once the master died, Jim became free. In a will, he made the will like this. So the slave Jim that I was searching for is set free. Now he can live a normal life. Then only Jim became free. It's not easy that if you say somebody will be free of slavery system. No, that is not possible. So this is the story in brief. So if you go through the chapter-wise summary, you can have the detailed summary. But it's not. It's very difficult to cover the detailed summary only. But still, we have running out of time now. It's 3:56. But still, some of the uh, themes that you may find, I talked about racism and slavery. The slavery system and racism are the main focus of the novel. I am not going to discuss any more. Racism and slavery system you can understand. And the second point is, the second thing is intellectual and moral education. Intellectuality and moral education. This is applied to the protagonist. This is to the protagonist, applied to the protagonist. Um, uh, Hawk. Hawk is the protagonist. How his intellectuality, his morality gradually improved as he went on having experiences, going away from the society, away from this boring, means corrupt kind of society where the human beings are treated like animals that you can buy, you can sell. The same human being we are living because they are black. As they are black in color, they do not look handsome. That is why we use them as slaves. So how can a human being can treat in such a very ridiculous manner, in a very capricious manner, to another human being? So that is something that you have to understand. So when the character Hawk understood all these things, he become morally and intellectually quite grown up. So that is about the main character. The hypocrisy of the civilized society is another thing. The hypocrisy. Okay, the society, they have their own hypocrisy. They are hypocritic. We say hypocritic men, hypocritic society. Okay, those who like to hype. Hypocrisy has its root in hype. Those who want to show off. In a civilized society, we find different kind of people. So these hypocrites or hypocrisy is the noun. Hypocrite is also a noun, but hypocrite applies to a person. Hypocrisy is a state of mind, you can say. So a hypocrite is deliberately shows up, deliberately does a lot of things which he wants to boost up about his own culture, boost up his own civilization, his own house, his own character. So when you boost up all about you and you try to undermine what others possess, that is hypocrisy. Okay. So you will find most of the people in the society that Hawk and Jim are characters of the societies, full of hypocrisy, a hypocrite society, you can say. So there you find these people, these slaves have no life at all. They are lifeless slaves. Okay. So guilt and shame is another theme you can you have to understand. Guilt and shame, that is the same thing. Guilt means the kind of crimes, the sin kind of things, the something wrong that you commit. Okay, so you'll find the wrong done by many people in the society, the shameful activities done in the society. Empathy is another theme. Empathy means finding uh, your sympathy in others. Suppose when you empathize, you try to understand what is going on in the psychology of another person. That is empathizing. Relating yourself, finding his emotions in you at the same time. Here you find that this Huck empathizing Jim all the while in the novel. Adventure is also another important thing. You find people, means the characters are fond of adventures. Jim, Tom, Huck, all are making going on adventurous. They are fond of adventures. Okay. Wealth, money. This is also again important. You find that the father of Huck is going to Douglas' house, and he kept Hawk also blocked in a cabin because of money. Because of money, all these things are going on, happening. Wealth is more important than the human life, and ironically, the slaves are also treated as wealth. If you have so many slaves, you are rich. So that is very unethical. Today, you can find the relevance of these things in the society. Okay. So this is something briefly about Huckleberry Finn. I hope I have given you the insight to understand what actually Huckleberry Finn is about. Uh, Better you go through the text if you find. Otherwise, the material provided to you is also, you can go through that. Okay. And I think all of you have mentioned your roll numbers and names. So if you have anything to ask, you can ask. Otherwise, we'll wind up. Okay, thank you. So the next class is scheduled MEG 8. MEG 8. If you have opted for MEG 8, you can join the next class that will start from 4 to 5. Okay, thank you.